Okay, so good morning po, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the third installment of the Natural Sciences Research Institute, or NSRI Lecture Series. This event is organized by the NSRI Research Seminar Committee, representing the four research and extension laboratories of NSRI. So through this lecture series, we aim to highlight the valuable role of science in addressing real-life challenges and providing innovative solutions to modern day problems. To reach a wider audience, we are pleased to announce that we are now conducting these lectures both on site and online via Zoom. Okay, today, we are honored to welcome our featured speaker, Dr. Christopher S. Pascual, an agricultural engineer and associate professor at the College of Engineering, Central Luzon State University, Science City of Muñoz, Nueva Ecija. Dr. Pascual recently earned his doctorate in biological and agricultural engineering from the North Carolina State University, USA, in May 2025. So, congratulations, sir. His research focuses on soilless farming technologies such as hydroponics, aquaponics, and vertical farming. He has also worked with DOST Region 3, PhilRice, DepEd, and various LGUs in establishing vertical farming systems that promote resource efficient and climate resilient food production. So without further ado, let us all give a warm welcome to Dr. Christopher S. Pascual.
Right. Thank you so much, Camille. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat sa pagdalo dito sa ah, seminar na ito. It's my first time in UP actually. And and I'm amazed how the environment welcomed me maski maulan siya, no? Pero ang ganda, parang misty yung environment and which is aligned with our topic today. And sino pong mga Ilocano dito? Wala. So, hindi na ako magjo-joke. Anyway, yun po kasing phrase na without so much ado, banggit niya kanina, ay redundant sa mga Ilocano. Redundant po yun. Alam ko po mga taga-UP mahusay sa mga grammar eh. So yun pong without so much ado na phrase ay redundant sa mga Ilocano. Bakit po? Kasi yung ado na word sa Ilocano ay much. Without so much, much. Parang ganun po yung ano. So anyway, that's just pangtanggal ng kaba. Ayun. So yun, let's go straight to the presentation. First of all, I'd like to thank the team of Ma'am Oxy, of course, for bringing me here at UP NSRI. And I hope that our collaboration will continue uh, to take off. And with this start, I'd like to present this lecture, Harnessing Soilless Farming Technologies for Climate Resilient and Resource Efficient Food Systems. Nung tinatanong ako ni Ma'am Camille and the team, ano po yung title ninyo na pwede ninyong i-share sa amin? So I thought of this title because I've been very passionate about the soilless farming. No? Since I pursued my master's, I graduated from CLSU with my bachelor way back more than 20 years ago. Huwag niyo na pong tanungin yung time, yung year. And then after 20 years, graduate ako ng master's ko. And that's the start that I pursued soilless farming. So that was just in 2018. So it's very fresh, not more than 10 years, almost becoming 10 years. Pero marami akong natutunan at marami akong gustong gawin para sa sa idea ng soilless farming because I thought that I think the Philippines is really well behind in terms of technology related to food production, particularly crops. No po? And yet, every year, every year, we are being devastated by typhoon, heavy rain, drought, and continuous hot weather condition because we are in a tropical country, right? Pag sinabi mo tropical country, I've been to Singapore, every afternoon at 1 o'clock, umuulan siya. I've stayed there for like 10 months, and there's not a day that I could not experience without raining in a day. Pero humihinto siya siguro 2 hours, 1 hour, and heavy rain siya. And yet Singapore would be, I mean, it's one of the small, tiny country that I would say food sufficient because they have technologies. And so our country, the Philippines, being a tropical country, we have this tropical climate which we experience a lot of typhoons. Kailan lang katatapos dalawa magkasunod na typhoon. Before that, may dalawa rin na magkasunod the month of September. So yun po yung nagiging dahilan but pumapasok sa isip ko why the Philippines or the government is not investing on infrastructure knowing that most of the food that we are eating every day, except of course, or even the rice, the corn, and some other fruiting crops, especially the high value crops, are subject to devastation. With just a small or heavy amount of rain, if your leafy vegetables are planted in an open field, kung nakatanim yun sa open field, sa lupa, pag, pag ulan ng medyo malakas, wala na, baka natabunan na ng sa Baguio, sa Benguet, lately lang, nakita natin yung how the flooding totally wash out their crops, strawberries, which is supposed to be about to take off flowering this next few 2 months, December, para good for strawberry festival by the month of February, something like that, or even the flowers. But it's was devastated by heavy rain, typhoon. So yun po yung pumasok sa isip ko kung bakit I'm very passionate with this initiative, soilless farming technology. Every day we have erratic weather condition. Kanina lang umalis ako sa Nueva Ecija, it was umaaraw siya, maganda yung araw paglabas ko. Dating ko sa NLEX, lakas na ng ulan. Yun, ayun, medyo umaaraw na siya ulit. So hopefully before ako matapos ay tuloy-tuloy yung pag-araw niya. Yun, so I've mentioned na high value crops ay mostly kailangan niya ng conducive weather condition. Temperature, a lower temperature, especially kung alam natin, mga lettuce natin, strawberries, which are mostly coming from the highlands of Benguet or Nueva Vizcaya. In Mindanao, maybe in Bukidnon, in Davao, some part of Davao. I've also been in Davao for 1 year, o nung 2020, 2000, I think. Tal na yon. But then they have a good, some of the places there in Mindanao are good place for high value crops. So high value crops required little low temperature. Sinasabi ng mga literatures is 16 to 28 or 16 to 26 degrees Celsius. Eh dito sa atin, we experience parang alas 10 na madaling araw, alas 4 na madaling araw, tsaka pa lang siya nagti-22 degrees Celsius. But the rest of the day is 28 and 36. That's the normal temperature in the lowland. How can we grow the high value crop? And is it even enough yung supply from the highlands to supply the need in the city? Don't think so. Or even if it is enough, pagdating dito, they are supplying there, they are producing in the highlands, and then pag transport nila, pagdating dito lasog-lasog na because those are high value crops. Konting tagtag lang yung pechay, yung lettuce, yung strawberry. Kaya yung strawberry po natin hindi masyadong matamis. Bakit? Pag dumadating dito from Benguet, kasi half ripe siya. Pag pinitas nila ng full ripe yun, pagdating dito lasog-lasog. That's why we are trying to produce in the lowland strawberry where you can pick right away in the tower and eat it there, fully ripe, much sweeter. Well, I'm not competing with the highlands, of course, kasi hindi naman tayo nakikipag-compete. We are complementing the production in the highland by introducing and developing these technologies. So yun yung mga kailangan ng ating mga high value crop. So nandiyan yung low temperature, I've mentioned 16 to 26 degrees Celsius. Protection from excessive heat, yung masyadong mainit, kaya naglalagay tayo ng greenhouse. Minsan sa mga indoor farms natin pinapatubo at pinapabunga. Just like in Japan, it's totally controlled. Naka-aircon yung kanilang mga halaman do'n. So we are trying to simulate that. Pero marami pong nagtatanong, eh ano ng presyo ng pagkain mo? And I ask them back, what do you prefer? With food or no food? Because there will come a time na baka hindi na tayo makapagpatubo do'n sa labas. Baka total controlled na ang kailangan natin para makapag-produce tayo ng pagkain. And we would be proud at CLSU that we have started indoor farming. At masasagot namin yung mga katanungan way back. So protection from heavy rain and strong wind, sufficient supply of water and nutrients, and of course protection from pests and diseases. So pagka po sa labas natin tinanim yung ating mga halaman, butas-butas na yan. Dami ng mga kurot ng mga insekto. Tapos kung hindi naman siya butas, eh bombarded with pesticides. No? Again, I'm not downing the practice of farmers because anyway, they are also developing, they are also enhancing and improving their practices through good agricultural practices that being taught by the agriculture. But still, we cannot avoid that. No? So the effects of tropical climate on food production, ang nangyayari po, limited type of crops produce mostly high value crops require cooler environment. Nabanggit natin, no? Na most of the high value crops require a cooler environment. And so, limited yung production natin. Just like what I've said, from Benguet, ang pinoproduce nila doon, high value crops, but that would just be enough for a few portion or percentage of the population. Baka nga hindi umabot dito sa, sabi ko nga, umaabot dito pero minsan lasog-lasog na. We have a limited type of crops that we can produce in a tropical weather condition. Disrupted production, just like, again, the last few weeks, karoon ng flooding. Imagine, may mga tanim tayo doon sa lupa, tapos nag-flood siya. We are supposed to harvest that, pero nag-flood siya, nasira, so disrupted yung ating production. Na-disrupt yung production, yung price niya biglang shoot up, no? Kaya yung kamatis natin 120 pesos ang kamatis ngayon. I don't know how much is the price here in Manila. But imagine doon sa amin, we are producing kamatis. And yet, sa palengke, 120 per kilo. Pero there's come a time naman, 2 pesos lang. Halos ayaw nang ibenta ng mga farmers. Kasi nga 2 pesos na lang ang bili sa kanila. So very ironic and very extreme po yung nangyayari sa ating food production system. Low quality of produce. Kapag sa open field, low quality of produce. Kasi sobrang init, naulanan, yun, butas-butas. Minsan ayaw nating bilhin. Mimili tayo ng maganda, galing sa Vietnam yon, galing sa Thailand, galing sa Singapore, galing sa Korea. All the way from Canada and US, dumadating po dito yung kanilang mga produce na magaganda at malalaki. Why? Because they have enough and they have invested in infrastructure. Yield potential is not maximized. Yun. Katulad na lang sa palay na lang, halimbawa, let's not talk about high value crops. Sa palay, aanihin natin, biglang bumagyo, dumapa yung palay na supposed to be, hindi pa pwedeng anihin. Dumapa siya. After 3 days, tumubo na yung palay kasi naka-submerge na yung bunga niya. Tumubo na siya, tapos nung i-harvest na, germ na lang yung na-harvest. Tapos nasira, nung ipapakiskis na siya, durog-durog. So low quality po or yield potential is not maximized and rapid pest occurrence and disease development. ako po galing sa US, halos hindi ako I mean, hindi ako maka-experience ng lamok doon o kaya ng langaw, ano pa, may ipis. Pero yung common na papalo-palo ka sa mukha mo, sa binti mo dito na dahil sa lamok, wala po doon. Or even some kind of, pest. Kasi ganda yung kanilang climate. There's a winter na 'pag winter talagang nagye-yellow yon, nag-a-icing at malamig na malamig, namamatay yung mga insekto. So nadi-disrupt yung cycle ng pest. Dito sa Pilipinas, hot and humid helps to proliferate yung insekto. Ang bilis ng kanyang turnover, ang bilis ng kanyang production. Kasi very conducive yung environment for pest production, for pest, ah, occurrence. So yun po yung nagiging problema natin. And is there any solution? Mayroon bang solution para sa mga problemang ito na binabanggit natin? Ano naman, let's just be contented from, imported products. Puwede bang gano'n na lang? Pero hindi, ang mahal-mahal na nga, eh. Ngayon nga lang nag-aaway-away sila sa rice tarification law, 'di ba? Tapos ang Vietnam nakikipag-away na sa atin, bakit daw pinigil ng president ang ini-stop niya ang importation for like 60 days for those who are listening to news, 60 days. And then, we've talked to, an undersecretary from DA, they are planning to extend that tour for another 60 days. Nakikipag-away ang Vietnam, bakit daw pinipigil mayroon tayong batas, mayroon tayong pinirmahan na we are open to World Trade Organization, 'di ba? Pero kasi nga hindi po puwede na sabihin natin, "Oh, let's just rely on imported products." Anyway, they have more quality products. Of course, mayroon namang mga solutions. Kaya 'yun po yung ginagawa natin, as part of the team in CLSU, Central Luzon State University, where I started working as an instructor way back 2019 after, finishing my master's and doing a research on vertical farming using aeroponics and hydroponic system and root zone cooling. I came across with this, uh, technology, and from then on, talagang very passionate po ako na ina-advocate ko ito. Kumbaga part na ng buhay ko. Wife ko nga nagrereklamo na, niya, "Sabado ngayon." Sabi ko naman, "Eh, kawawa yung aso hindi pa napakain." Kasi may aso kami dun sa research center. Kakainin ko lang yung aso, pero yung pagkain ng aso maghapon ako nagpapakain. Tapos linggo after church, "O, linggo ngayon ha?" Sabi ng wife ko. "Bakit? Bakit walang trabaho ngayon, church lang tayo." O sila walang trabaho, ako meron. Gano'n po ako ka-passionate dito sa ginagawa ko. But I'm not sacrificing my family. It's just that I want to keep my mind busy thinking of some solutions, how I can help, uh, the country in producing quality technology somehow in a small way. Kasi nakikita ko po ito, if every household has their own small production, hindi na tayo magre-rely sa galing sa taas, kailan. We have our own. We can put it right in our backyard or right in our room or right in our office. So yun po yung mga tumatakbo sa isipan ko ngayon. So ito po yung mga potential na solutions. Climate resilient food production technology. We have the soilless farming, which will be the focus of our lecture today. And of course, vertical farming. We have the indoor farming technology and the root zone cooling technology. So ito pong apat na ito, I just put this 4 category. Actually, there are still some other categories that could help in attaining climate resilient food production system. So these are some of the soilless farming technologies so far as I can remember and as far as with my experience and with the technology that we are producing at CLSU, we have the aeroponics, which I have started. This is not a new technology. I just adapted from an old technology that's being practiced worldwide. in the US. Most of it are being practiced po sa mga advanced countries, no? Mga developed countries. So aeroponics, hindi po ito. This is not my technology. Uh, I just pero sa Pilipinas so far are also some or many already who have been adopting this technology, aeroponics, hydroponics, aquaponics. But as far as I can remember, I was the first to do it in strawberry, yung aeroponics. Yung hydroponics, marami na po tayo makikitang ganitong mga setup. Yung aquaponics, marami na rin siguro, pero different from the setup, from the technology or from the design that we are developing at CLSU. So ito po yung mga soilless farming technology, aeroponics, hydroponics, and aquaponics. In fact, ang aeroponics po ay some kind of a hydroponic system. Makikita po natin diyan, ito yung aeroponics is this is an advanced farming technology kung saan yung root system niya ay nakahang siya in the air, and it is continuously or intermittently misted with nutrient-rich mist or droplets of water with nutrient. And the advantage of this is accelerated growth, mas mabilis yung paglaki niya kasi nga aerated yung roots niya. So, ang tanim po ay humihinga siya through the roots at nag-absorb sila ng oxygen. If they have enough oxygen, na-absorb through the roots and enough nutrient and enough water, mabilis po yung kanilang paglaki. So, the advantage of doing an aeroponic system is accelerated growth. Mas mabilis po yung pag-ani natin ng ating mga halaman. So, instead of 30 days, we can start harvesting them 20 days. So, meaning, more cropping cycle within a year. So yun po yung isang advantage ng aeroponics. And soilless farming technology, this is a hydroponic system. So makikita po ninyo doon yung aeroponics, which I mentioned na it is a part of actually a hydroponic system. Isang klase siya ng hydroponic system. And there are different hydroponic system. We have the deep water culture kung saan malalim yung tubig tapos naka-float yung mga halaman through styrofoam. Merong drip system na parang yung tanim ay naka-install doon sa soilless, like coco peat, sa sand, or sa pumice, tapos nagdi-drip lang yung tubig na mayroong kasamang nutrients. And of course, the nutrient film technique, which I will be showing you some of the examples of this. So yun po yung hydroponics. Ang aquaponics naman ay this is the combination of fish culture, nag-aalaga tayo ng isda, meron tayong aquarium kunyari, tapos gusto natin kasi ang fish ay pinapakain natin ng feeds. Yung feeds na pinapakain natin is high in protein. If it is high in protein, resultantly, it is high in nitrogen. Kung kinain ng isda yung protein na feeds, pag dudumi siya ng high nitrogen content na mga dumi. Humihinga siya, nag-excrete siya through their gills, kanilang hasang, ng ammonia. At saka yung poop nila, yung excrete nila ay high in ammonia. Kaya, pag nag-accumulate yon, yung kanilang pinakain natin ng pinakain, yung isda, doon sa aquarium, doon sa ating aquaculture na inaalagaan, doon sa fish pa natin, pinakain natin ng pinakain, nag-accumulate yung kanyang weight, dumadami yung kanyang dumi, tumataas yung level ng ammonia doon sa tubig na pwedeng ikamatay ng isda. So kailangan nating gamitin yon as fertilizer. Kaya natin, that's why we are combining it with hydroponics. Bakit hydroponics? Kasi hindi pwede sa lupa. Pag sa lupa, madudumihan yung tubig, makukontaminate yung isda. So while hydroponics, tubig lang siya na umiikot, kasama natin siya doon sa aquaculture, and that creates the aquaculture system. Also, it creates a symbiotic relationship between the fish, between the plants, and between the bacteria that is converting the ammonia. Medyo technical po yun. Kino-convert ng bacteria, these are beneficial bacteria. Pag sinabi ko pong bacteria dito sa aquaponics, beneficial po siya, hindi siya bad. Okay? So baka po yung alam ko po maraming mga microbiologists dito, baka makontaminate tayo doon sa kinakain natin. Okay. So yun po ang advantage na ngayon ng At the later part, mayroon po tayong iba pang supporting details about aquaponics, how it operates, no? So, yung ang konsepto lamang po ay the fish produce waste in a form of nitrogen, that is ammonia. Tapos yung bacteria, natural yon na magkakaroon ng bacteria do'n pagka mayroong setup na ganyan. Convert niya yung ammonia into nitrite and nitrate. Yung nitrate naman, yun na yung gagamitin ng halaman. I-absorb ng halaman, babalik yung tubig, fish, malinis siya. So yun po yung concept. That's why they create a micro ecosystem, creating a symbiotic relationship between the plants, the bacteria, and the fish. Okay. So nabanggit po natin yung 4 pillars. Ano ko lang po ng konti. Oh. So I would say these are the 4 pillars of climate resilient food production system. We have the soilless farming, which is I just discussed. Mayroon tayong vertical farming, mayroon tayong root zone cooling, at mayroon tayong indoor farming technology. Fast forward, vertical farming. Ito po ay very basic na example. Sa traditional farming, kung nagtatanim po tayo ng pechay, halimbawa sa isang kwadrado na lupa, pwede nating itanim lamang doon dahil hindi pwedeng kumpul-kumpol at hindi siya lalaki, payat. So nilalagyan natin ng distance about 20 to 25 centimeter away from each other. Kung pwede nating itanim sa isang square meter of land using the traditional farming way is about 20 to 30 plants. Pagdating sa vertical farming na ginagawa natin ngayon using PVC material, o hindi po tayo bumibili ng mga katulad ng mga napapanood natin sa YouTube na mga ini-stock siya. I believe Joey Midking, kung familiar po kayo kay Joey Midking, she he has a farm. She has a farm. Okay. She has a farm. Ayun, mayroon siyang farm na using yung mga stackable towers. Mahal po 'yon kasi binibili 'yon that is fabricated using a 3D printer. Okay? Imagine niyo po yung mga maliliit lang na tini-3D print natin, napakamahal na. How much more 'yon, ang lalaki. Okay. So, samantala sa vertical farming, so we are comparing how much we can plant in a traditional way compared to a vertical farming way. So sa sa traditional sabi po natin 20 to 30 plants ang pwede nating ilagay. While sa vertical farm we can go all the way 100 to 400 depending on the height of your tower kasi yung space naman pataas is unlimited. Pero yung space po horizontal sa lupa is limited. So if you want to go all the way 3 meters, as much as you can support with an structure na hindi siya matutumba, hindi siya mababali, you can still go all the way 6 meters. Marami na pong gumawa yan sa US. So 100 to 400 or even 1,000, I would say. Yun po, no? So yun yung vertical farming. At pagka po nag-vertical farming tayo, syempre, kailangan natin ng mga structures. Hindi po pwede na, well, we've tried some setup in Nueva Ecija na walang cover siya, net lang. Cover lang namin siya ng net, pwede naman. Pero pag malakas na yung bagyo, eh, pwede pong liparin yung mga halaman natin. Pag walang cover sa gilid, wala siya. Pag masyadong malakas yung ulan, didilyot yung nutrients natin, mababasa ng husto, masisira yung knockdown yung mga maliliit na mga seedlings, masisira siya. That's why we are using covered structures like greenhouse. Kailangan po natin yan. Plastic covering, mayroon po tayo yung mga na-design na dome-shaped greenhouse. I think there's another dome-shaped na dahil nakita po ng DOST Taguig yung dome-shaped doon sa CLSU, nagpalagay po sila dito sa DOST Taguig ng another kind of like this. And then net covering. So yun po yung mga pwede nating gamitin na mga structures. Sa climate po natin ay I would recommend ang ginagawa po namin ngayon is combination. So mayroon kaming plastic, at the same time we have to cover it with net to reduce to shade the sunlight somehow and reduce the temperature and even the light intensity. Kasi po 'pag combination po nun, hot temperature and too much sunlight intensity could be bad for the plants. So, nire-reduce po namin 'yon by yung kasing mga covering ng mga plastic covering, these are UV plastic. So, it controls the UV light coming from the sun penetrating to the leaves of the plants. So, that help. But the temperature, hindi niya puwedeng bawasan. That's why we add the net covering. So, 'yun po yung ginagawa namin ngayon. There are many designs na, well, may pera sila, you can put, we call this evaporative cooling system na mayroon kang malaking fan, mayroon at the other end ay mayroong cooling pad siya. So I think this was done by MVP in Bulacan. They built 20 hectares of greenhouse, the very first in the Philippines. At last, yun po yung aking pangarap na makita. Hopefully, yung pong government natin mag-invest din, not just the private, no? So yun po yung pangarap namin, na hindi lang ganito katiting, kaliliit. Alam niyo po, para tayong kawawa na parang ang liliit nung aming mga greenhouse. Tapos pagka nag-uusap kami from Korea, sa US, "You have any experience with greenhouse?" Yes. Parang hindi pa ako makapagsagot ng maayos. Kasi nga yung greenhouse namin is 100 square meter. Ang greenhouse nila hectares, acre. So I'm very happy that MVP have started the big greenhouse. That's a hectareage of greenhouse in Bulacan. And of course, mayroon po tayo sa Japan naman, ito very 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 famous po sa Japan yung plant factory nila na makikita natin sa loob. Although this is not in Japan, pero ito po ay sa CLSU. So we have started. I believe in UPLB. There's another professor from the Department of Agricultural and Biosystems Engineer who also built plant factory there using container van. So ito po sa amin ay pasyal po sila Ma'am Oxy do'n. Ito po ay mga ano lang, plywood. Tapos binubungan lang namin. So we are planning to enhance this, palitan yung mga plywood, gawin siyang concrete talaga at continuous yung supply. Kasi nag-work naman siya with the minimal intervention. So nakita niyo po yung mga halos matakpan na ako ng mga lettuce do'n. Those are lettuce. And even though they are overgrown, hindi po siya mapait, hindi siya anong tawag dito, malulutong pa rin siya. So yun po. This is a growing chamber. We call it growing chamber. So the purpose of this is to create a controlled microclimate na ma-optimize yung temperature, humidity, light intensity, and of course, if you control that, you will have a year-round production. Umulan man, bumagyo, bumaha sa labas, you have this structure, you have provided the microclimate, continuous ang production ng food. And of course, the road zone cooling technology. The road zone cooling technology utilizes the stable ground temperature for road zone cooling of plants in vertical tower. This concept is not, again, new. This is an old concept, but the novel concept here is utilizing it for crop production. Kasi sa mga advanced countries like Europe, yung mga may winter and summer, they utilize passive cooling using ground heat exchanger system to cool their rooms, cool their house during summer. And then during winter naman, it will provide heat. Kasi underground temperature is much more stable in other countries. For example, they have an stable temperature of 10 to 15 degrees Celsius. That's very conducive temperature para sa kanila. Mag-freeze siya during winter up to -5, -10, but underground temperature of about 2 to 3 meters depth, temperature is still stable at 10 to 15 degrees Celsius. Dito po sa Pilipinas, our ambient average annual temperature is about 26 degrees Celsius. So underground, mapa-December yan, mapa-summer, yung pong ating underground temperature ay average niya about 26 to 27 degrees Celsius. Hindi po siya nagba-vary. So the deeper you go, the more stable you get. 26 to 27 degrees Celsius. Ang mga halaman po, less than 30 degrees Celsius or more than 30 degrees Celsius yung temperature na expose yung roots niya, ay pwede siyang ma-stress. So imagine you harness a temperature, underground temperature with a stable temperature of 26 degrees Celsius. Ginagamit mo yon para palamigin yung roots ng halaman mo, not necessarily the canopy. The canopy are still exposed to a higher temperature when 36, 34. May time na umabot ang temperature sa loob ng greenhouse na pinagtamtan ko ng strawberry about 42 degrees Celsius. Pero yung root zone temperature po niya is less than 30. About 29 yung pinakamataas pagka alas 3 na ng hapon. Pagka alas 5 ng hapon. But after that, pagdating ng hapon, kasi somehow affected yung supply ng tubig mo na malamig by the ambient temperature. So naapektuhan siya. But we maintained less than 30 degrees Celsius, which is safe for the plants. So root zone cooling technology using the underground temperature is it's a passive cooling. You don't use industrial cooling system like air condition, chiller. So ang gamit lang dito is water pump lang, dadaan yung tubig na ibinaon mo yung mga pipes sa ilalim ng lupa, palalamagin na niya yung tubig, and that's enough to cool down the roots of the plants. Parang sa atin, minsan pag yung mukha lang natin ang nalamigan, the rest of the body will, or yung paa lang nalamigan, the rest of the body will be cooled down. Lalo na kung konti, di ba nga mayroon tayo yung maliit na fan na ngayon, yung ano, meron ako yung sinasaksak sa cellphone lang, sobrang liit. Ma-cool down lang yung mata ko, parang big relief na sa akin. So, this is, again, this is not a new technology, but the new innovation here is utilizing it for crop production. Kasi in the past, or even now, they are still using the ground heat exchanger for cooling the house or heating the house, depending on the climate, be it winter or summer in advanced countries. So yun po. And that is a result of a root zone cooling technology using ground heat exchanger system. We were able to grow strawberry, imagine that, in the lowland. Yan po yung strawberry. Hindi ko po yung binili sa Benguet. At those are fruits coming from those plants installed in a vertical farm. And we also have lettuce. Ito po marami ng mga gumagawa na ngayon, no? Halos Bulacan, Tarlac, Nueva Ecija. There are some part in Visayas, now in Mindanao. I'm collaborating with some university in Mindanao. We are proposing a project para po mag-set up ng mga ganito, even the strawberry. Meron pong mga advantage and disadvantage naman ng vertical farming. Hindi naman lahat ay advantage. So in every development naman, laging mayroong disadvantage. Pero let's see how the advantages of vertical farming, you can grow more food in less space. For sure, as we have mentioned kanina na pagka doon sa lupa ka lang, 30 plants, you can maximize that for about 30 plants in a square meter of land. Pero pag vertical farm, you can grow more than 100, 400, something like that. Harvest cleaner fruits and vegetable. Imagine yung pong ating mga tanim, hindi na nakasayad. Pagka umulan, ng konting lupa yung yung talbos nung pechay, nung lettuce, pag-uumpisahan ng bulok 'yon, lalo na kung mayroong mga soil-borne diseases. Hindi po ba? Wala naman akong nabalitaan na waterborne diseases sa mga plants. It's mostly a soil-borne diseases para po doon pa sa mga nagtatanim. Efficient water and nutrient application. Super efficient siya kasi sabi niya useless, up to 95% water saving kasi nagsi-circulate lang yung tubig. Hindi po nasasayang. bumabalik siya sa tangke, umiikot lamang siya. And keeps crops off the ground, decreasing chance of pests and diseases. The farm operation can be automated. So ito na pa yung pinapasok ngayon ng mga estudyante namin and some other professionals from electronic communication engineers, IT professionals, what else? Mga computer engineers, mga mechanical engineers ay gusto nang i-automate yung farming operation. Not it's no longer just the work of an agricultural engineer or an agriculturist, but it's a combination of different professions wanted to share their knowledge to make the farming automated. Ayun nga po, meron na yung iba. Yung isa sa amin ay IT siya. So she tried to develop a platform, her phone. Kapag kapicturan niya yung lettuce niya at na-detect niya na may peste, isi-send lang niya yung yung information, "Oh, ito ang gagawin mo. Prutin mo yung dahon, tanggalin mo." Parang gano'n yung kanyang recommendation. Para hindi kumalat yung sakit. So, an example of immediate immediate application ng mga information technology, computer, sa cellphone, internet. So, yun po yung mga applications ngayon na ginagawa nila. Eh, so meron din naman tayong disadvantage. It's not all advantage. Sabi nga natin, high initial cost, siyempre. You will build a room like this, imbis na meeting place na lang siya, magiging growing chamber. May mga ilaw yan, may mga platform, may aircon. So high cost siya. And also high operational cost kasi mayroong ilaw dahil hindi pwedeng walang ilaw ang halaman. That's the source of the photosynthesis in replacement of the sunlight. Okay? And only suitable for certain kinds of plants. So hindi lahat pwede nating patubuin, 'no? Hindi tayo puwedeng maglagay ng banana, kaya ng mangga sa hydroponics or sa vertical farming. Hindi tayo puwedeng rice is being grown in vertical farming. In Indonesia, maraming gumagawa niyan. In aquaponics as well. And, requires skill to set up a vertical. Somehow, still it requires skill. Pero marami na rin po, na not necessarily skilled because may mga plug and play na tayo ngayon na mga ginagawa. So, it is also in my dream na somehow, one of these days, meron ng plug and play na for, home series or household series, liliit. So, yun po yung ating mga, ah, dine-design sa ngayon. Crops that can be planted in vertical farms, marami naman po. Herbs, basil, mint, thyme, parsley, cilantro, rosemary, sage, oregano, marami siya. Ito po ay from Agrotonomy. Niyo po yan sa Facebook. Papapanood niyo siya sa Facebook. Hindi na ako nagpaalam sa kanya, ginrab ko yung kanya kasi open naman. So, inopen naman niya yung Facebook niya. So, pinopromote ko siya. I mean, tapos yan, yung, cherry tomato is being grown. Now we are also exploring meron po kasing cherry tomato na bush type siya, hindi siya yung, ah, matagal at pahaba. Of course, the basil, this is thyme, pero ito tanim po namin 'tong thyme, nagtanim ako niyan. Strawberry, tomato, lettuce, pechay, kangkong, arugula, kale, chives, leeks, and other leafy greens. Lahat po 'yon ay puwedeng patubuin sa vertical farming. Even root crops. Sweet potato, we are proposing a sweet potato for vertical farming. Even the potato, one of my PhD student ay nagpo-propose naman ng mini tuber production using aeroponics in vertical farm. Turnips, carrots. So yun po ay hindi imposibleng patubuin sa vertical farming. Kasi nagawa na po. Ngayon tingnan po natin, ilang mga vertical farming around the world, makikita natin yan. Arizona, which is very famous. Ang Arizona po, by the way, ay napakainit ang kanilang summer. But they are one of the advanced state in the US in terms of controlled environment agriculture. Yung mga professor po ay galing doon. Aero Farms in New Jersey, ito microgreen naman yung production nila. Ah, dito po sa may tawag dito, sa Manila. yung urban greens, you happen to meron din silang production ng ano, ng mga microgreens, urban greens ang pangalan nila. We have this in Dallas, Texas. Ito 'yon. Tapos sa Scotland ay incorporate nila ang agritecture, which is an integration of architecture with agriculture. So yung mga building po nila ay nilalagyan, they are required to design the buildings, put an uh, theme of like agriculture. Hindi lang siya agriculture, dapat food production siya. Hindi lang siya for landscape purposes. So yun, mayroong mga sa Scotland. And sa Malaysia, ito yung Cultivier sa Malaysia, located at the very center or middle of the coconut plantation. So yan po yung kanilang production. Hindi po, those are shade net. Shade net. Pagka mainit, automatic siyang nagko-cover yung shade. So automated siya. We have the Sky Greens in Singapore. Nakita ko din po ito nung nandun ako in 2013. Tapos of course, one of the very famous plant factory in Japan, which and also in Korea. So mayroon po sila mga ganyan. At hindi naman po tayo napapahuli kasi we are starting to develop our own based on the local condition. So take note po, the technology is not just plug and play, it has to be adaptable in a local condition. Sabi ko nga po kanina, mainit sa atin, laging may ulan, may bagyo. So kailangan natin ng medyo i-vary yung mga technology na yon. So we have this strawberry farm in Cialesion, Nueva Ecija. Although ngayon we are trying to revive it. This was in 2019, 2020, that year, 3 years. During the pandemic actually. So yun po yung isang tanim, take note. Ito po isang tanim sa vertical farm and it has a lot of fruit. Ganun po siya karami. And right there, you can pick and eat. So, hindi ka mag-aalala na may spray siya or 'di ba? Yung pick and eat and play up and pay, 'di ba nakakaano 'yun, nakakaalarma. Tapos meron din po tayong that's my beautiful wife, siya yung model. Nasama siya. Baka magalit siya, hindi ko siya binanggit eh. She's watching right now. Okay. And tomato, of course, ito yung puwede siyang landscape, edible landscape actually. So, makikita niyo po yung iba-ibang kulay ng ano. Instead of parang mayroon din kaming concept ng edible fence. So, instead yung fence mo may mga towers, matutuwa pa'y kapitbahay. Meron silang pipitasin, 'wag lang nilang ubusin, 'di ba? So, instead na mag-over the bakod sila, so right in the fence, may tanim yung fence, so yun makakapag-pick yung kapitbahay. Alright. So, what we have done so far, we are trying to extend this technology in non-government organizations. We have set up in Department of Education, high schools, elementary schools, because we are trying to, ang ginagawa po namin dito is, as early as elementary days, ay ma-familiarize itong mga bata. Kasi wala nang gustong mag-agriculture eh. Gusto mag-agriculture pero wala nang lupa. So this could be an answer to their desire na they still wanted to go on agriculture pero ayaw na ng putik. Kaya nga soilless, so wala na pong putik. Yun. So we also collaborate with some agencies. We set up some vertical farms in agencies like PhilRice, DOST, mga LGUs, naglalagay po kami ng ganon. So, and we also provide trainings through the ATI, Agricultural Training Institute. And yes, we are slowly developing semi-commercial ones. Hopefully, in the near future, mayroon tayong maidi-demo na isang farm that is sustainable, income generating, continuous production of food. Ganun po yung aming dream. And we have started so far. So, we have enough time. may enough time for the question and answer. 4 minutes, okay. So this is just an overview of the aquaculture naman, why we are advocating for aquaponics. Ito yung overview worldwide. Aquaculture kasi is the fish farming, tawag natin doon. At nag-aalaga tayo ng isda, that is fish farming. That is aquaculture. And kung wild capture, yung mga sa dagat, nahuhuli natin sa mga ilog, halos stagnant na siya since 2010. Hindi na siya tumataas. Samantalang yung aquaculture, yung pag-aalaga ng isda for food production or food for some other purposes is continuously is increasing. In fact, in 2022, na-surpass na ng aquaculture ang production against do'n sa wild capture. So wala na, maski ano nang gawin ng tao, magpalaki siya ng ship, ano pang intervention or technology ang gawin niya, hindi na tataas yung panghuhuli ng isda sa dagat. Kasi some part of the sea is or ocean is already overfished. Yung iba naman talagang hindi puwedeng puntahan do'n sa Bermuda Triangle, siguro nando'n yung maraming isda. Pero nobody will go there. Kasi alam naman parang I don't know, na na 'di ba? Baka puwedeng mawala dun yung tao. Okay. So yun yung concept. However, we are saying na yung fish ay nagpo-produce siya ng waste. And yung waste production niya could be detrimental to the environment. In fact, it is one of the reasons why there is a fish kill dito sa Laguna Lake, Pangasinan. Kasi nga, yung dumi ng isda ay mataas ang nitrogen niya, phosphorus, tapos carbon dioxide. All of those are actually waste but they are nutrients. Pagka pinakawalan natin yon, kasi wala pa tayong masyadong regulation eh. Yung mga nag-aalaga ng mga malalaking fish pond, they just throw their waste in the open waters, in the rivers. Walang regulation. Pero it could cause a very detrimental effect in our environment. So, bakit hindi natin gamitin siya sa aquaponics? In fact, kung titingnan natin, out of sa Pilipinas na lang, tingnan natin. Ayun, sa Philippines condition, 300 metric ton or metric kilogram ang production ng tilapia in 2024. Sabi natin, yung dumi niya ay nagpo-produce ng nitrogen. So, that is a staggering 248 metric ton of nitrogen ang napoproduce ng mga nag-aalaga ng tilapia. Tapos, take note po, 1 kilogram of nitrogen yung ating abono, kaya niya mag-produce ng 80 kilogram ng lettuce. So all of these waste can be valorized to produce a sustainable food for us. Additional income kung i-apply natin siya sa aquaponic system. Ito alam naman natin, sabi naririnig na natin 'to every presentation yata mayroon nito, eh, na by 2050 the population would reach about 10 billion and the food demand would also increase to up to 70% by then. Eh, ngayon pa nga lang hindi I mean ramdam na natin yung talagang kakulangan. Siguro tayo na may mga trabaho hindi natin masyadong ramdam. Pero punta tayo sa kalye, kikita natin yung mga namamalimos, talagang makikita natin. Or even in the provinces, in the rural areas, hindi lang natin nakikita, hindi lang nila pinaparamdam kasi they are used to it. Pero there's come a time na talagang sila din ay magma-manifest ang kanilang mga problema in terms of food shortage. That's why we are advocating also the aquaponics because it valorizes waste from aquaculture. Yung waste ng isda, gagamitin natin siyang fertilizer. Tapos malinis yung tubig natin na pakakawalan sa open waters. So yun po yung mga basic components of aquaponics setup. At may mga common designs tayo. We will not go too much on that one. So kami po sa CLSU ay nagde-design din ng mga aquaponics na adaptable again. Pwede sa rooftop, pwede doon sa maliit na backyard. At yan, puro kangkong yung aming inuumpisahan tsaka lettuce. Pero imagine yung kangkong na ano, 'di ba? Araw-araw mong pipitasan. Sarap kaya ng adobong kangkong sa Jollibee. Hindi lang yung chicken ang masarap do'n, yung pong meron ba lang kangkong sa Chowking, sorry. 'Yun. So meron din po tayong mga design. So different designs that we are making to adapt with the available area, depending on the location. So pwede po tayong maglagay ng mga fish species like tilapia, hito, freshwater shrimp. Ngayon, we are advocating also with the freshwater eel. So marami pong mga klase. At we continue designing aquaponic system at CLSU in order to provide a better, intensified production system. Like, konti lang yung space mo, now we are incorporating solar powered as well kasi fluctuating na yung kuryente natin. So at least kung may solar power, wala man yung kuryente, yung grid ay andun pa rin, meron pa ring source of power yung ating setup. So this is an OPRS, on pond raceway system, parang simulating a river effect like. Kasi yung mga isda natin gusto nila parang yung iba yung rivers. That's where they thrive naturally. And so we are trying to simulate that with the designs of aquaponic system. Yun. Advantage of aquaponic system, the same advantage that we have in hydroponics. We usually just use less water, about 80 to 85% water saving. Kasi hindi mo tinatapon yung tubig, nagdadagdag ka lang. Somehow, nagpapalit ka ng konti, pero not totally the whole water. Especially kung fresh water, kasi fresh water to. Paano kung nawasa yung tubig natin? Di ang mahal na ng ating pagka-river-like yung inassemble natin. Gusto mo, bukas na lang yung faucet mo lagi para ma-provide mo yung fresh water na safe para doon sa isda mo. So that will not happen with the designs that we are doing. And we are also looking to some marine aquaponics application dahil walang halos kokonting klaseng tanim ang pwedeng mabuhay sa salt water. So one of my study in the US was on marine aquaponics. Marami naman so one of the product is yung California, which is salt water, green salt. Pwede siyang gawing green salt. It's much healthier than the table salt because it's lower in sodium. So you can dry it, you can consume it as a salad, in addition to your salad. So hindi ka na mag-aasin sa salad mo kasi yung California is salty itself. So yun yung isang pinapair namin doon sa marine aquaponic system. And to end this presentation, again, these are the 4 pillars of the technology that for us to be able to attain a climate resilient food production. We have the soilless farming, vertical farming, root zone cooling, which is passive cooling without using industrial kind of cooling chillers or air conditions, and of course the indoor covering greenhouse or growing chamber. So ito po ay pangarap ko na sana ating gobyerno ay mag-invest sa infrastructure dahil sana may nakikinig. No? Wag po sa flood control i-invest. There's this thinking that I'm always fine. Bakit pag food production, laging ROI ang pinag-uusapan? Bakit pag gadget, hindi natin kino-compute yung ROI niya? Pag sasakyan, hindi natin kino-compute ang ROI niya. Pag building, hindi kino-compute ang ROI. Pero bakit pag food production system ang pinag-usapan? Be it infrastructure or system or technology, ang laging tanong, what's the ROI? Bakit ang mga ibang bansa ay sustain sila sa Japan? Do they even consider that? ROI for the production, for food production? I don't know, kasi hindi ako nagpunta ng Japan. My wife came from there. I mean, doon siya nag-aral, pero hindi niya natanong. Pero yun lang po yung iiwanan kong question sa atin. At marahil may mga nakikinig na mga nasa mataas na mga position. Ang tanong sa amin nung unang sinet up namin yung growing chamber, magkano ang presyo na ng lettuce mo pag dito mo pinatubo? Sabi ko naman, sir, pag may mabibili kayong lettuce, maski mahal, gutom na kayo, bibili ba kayo? Niya, "Oo, kasi wala akong mabiling iba." So yun din po yung sagot namin sa kanya. So thank you po thank you very much for this time that you have given to me and yun.
Right. Thank you po. Thank you very much, Sir Chris, for sharing your passion and expertise in soilless farming for sustainable and climate resilient food production. I'm sure many of us here are inspired to start our own hydroponics up in our houses. So now we will proceed to the open forum. We will entertain questions from our audience at the conference room first, and followed by the questions from our Zoom participants. So, any questions from our kailangan po naka-mic tayo, Kuya Ju. Ulitin po natin. Ulitin po natin yung question.
Yes po, actually, as I've mentioned, sa Indonesia, I think even in Thailand and Vietnam, ay meron silang mga aquaponic. Sa hydroponics hindi masyado kasi it is an old practice way back in, in Mexico and China. If we go back to the history 'no, ang palay ay para pati dito sa Pilipinas, I remember when I used to grow in the village na may palay kami, tapos pinapakawalan namin ng isda. Tapos may mga bibi pa nga, eh. So, multi-species yung ngayon, that is the traditional way of, aquaponics. May doon sa sinulat kong paper, that's where the aquaponics take off from that concept. Yung kung tanong ninyo kung puwede sa palay, puwede po siya. Pero no, mas safe siya sa bagyo. Ang problema po kung bakit, siguro kung super special yung palay natin, halimbawa, in fact sa PhilRice may mga mayroon ng mga nag-aaral ng ganyan using hydroponics, yung pagbi-breed, ginagamit nila sa breeding. Pero kung gusto po natin, puwede po siya, puwede. Sa YouTube po marami tayong makikita ng mga gano'n, hydroponic palay or aquaponics palay. Naka-install siya sa mga naka-install po siya sa mga tube. Wala lang po akong picture na maipapakita sa inyo, pero mayroon 'yon. Mga PVC na mga nakalatag, may butas-butas, tapos doon naka-cap yung mga palay. Tapos yung tubig na galing do'n sa isda ay doon nagfo-flow. Tapos pagdaan do'n, inabsorb nung palay yung dumi ng fish as fertilizer, tapos iikot yung tubig babalik doon sa isdaan, malinis na siya. Libre po sa fertilizer. Opo. Kaya nga po 'di ba sabi natin kanina, 1 kilogram ng urea ay puwedeng mag-produce ng 80 kilogram na lettuce. Imagine po yung isda natin, 1,000 na isda lang nun. 1,000 po na isda, ang napo-produce po niyang nitrogen is 0.8 kilogram every day. Every day po 'yon. Kung gano'n po karami yung kanyang napo-produce. Every day kung doon natin na pinapatubo yung ating halaman, every day may naa-absorb yung ating halaman na nutrients, nitrogen, phosphorus, and even yung carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide po ay kailangan ng halaman. Kaya yung mga indoor farms, meron po silang artificial, gas na nagsu-supply ng carbon dioxide. 'Pag wala pong carbon dioxide yung halaman, hindi siya lalaki. Yun po.
Other questions po?
Hi, good morning. May question po ako dun sa aquaponics. So, kung tama yung pagkaintindi ko dun sa nakita ko, hindi, kunyari may fish tank or fish pond, hindi basta maglalagay ng parang platform above tapos nandun yung halaman na yung roots ng halaman diretso nagpupunta sa aquarium. Kailangan nakaangat siya tapos ipa-pump pa yung water, umiikot siya. So, kailangan talagang ipaikutin na gano'n. Hindi puwedeng diretso lang na parang yung roots may direct access doon sa tubig ng pond.
Design, may mga nagsubok ng gano'n ang disenyo. Pagka po nagutom yung isda, kakainin niya yung roots ng halaman. 'Pag diretso siyang naka-float doon sa fish pond mismo. So, kasi usually ang mga fish natin is, ano siya, omnivores siya. So, puwede siyang kumain ng feeds, puwede rin siyang kumain ng mga halaman. So, hindi po ina-advise na gano'n yung setup. At saka ang isa pa po ay, well, it will help kung yung halaman mo is not for consumption, just to maintain the water quality. Puwede po yun to help maintaining the water quality, to reduce yung ammonia level. Pero take note po, most of the, form of nutrients that's being absorbed by the plants is in the form of nitrate, NO3. Hindi po siya yung ammonia. Konti lang po sa ammonia. Mas absorbable ng halaman yung nitrate kaysa ammonia. So kaya po kailangang i-circulate, padaanin sa biofilter, because the function of the biofilter is to convert yung ammonia produced by fish into nitrite and nitrate before siyang dumaan doon sa halaman. Yung pong biofilter, ang function po noon ay, diyan tumitira yung ating mga beneficial bacteria. So may mga, media po 'yan na tinatawag, puwedeng plastic media, puwedeng sand, puwedeng biochar, o depende po 'yun sa sa available na mga materyales. Pero sa mga commercial production, ang biofilter ang nakalagay diyan ay mga nabibili lang din siya na specially, designed, formulated to provide shelter or habitat for the beneficial bacteria. So do'n sila nag-a-attach, yung pong ating mga beneficial bacteria, mga Nitrosomonas, Nitrobacter, yun po, yun yung mga medyo technical term ang mga ano do'n. So, super fine po sila, maliliit, at the more surface area doon sa biofilter, mas maraming bacteria ang titira do'n. Mas maraming bacteria, mas maraming or mas mabilis ang pag-convert from ammonia to nitrite and nitrate. So, yun po yung concept nung aquaponics.
Meron naman talaga sa environment, pero yung sa biofilter mo, do you buy the mixture of the nitrifying bacteria?
Ito po yung mayroon tayong tinatawag na fishless cycling. 'Pag fishless cycling, yun yung gusto natin ma-colonize muna yung biofilter natin ng bakterya. Ang ginagawa po natin diyan, may nabibiling mga bakterya, pero puwede ka ring kumuha ng bakterya from your neighboring fish, aquarium. Automatic po kasi 'yan, eh. For as long as there is a fish, it will produce the bacteria itself. Pagka mayroon pong mga katulad po sa mga rivers natin, may mga, lalo na kung may mga isda do'n, may mga bakterya kaagad do'n na dumadaloy. O kaya sa lupa po minsan, puwede nating gamitin yung lupa mismo. Kumuha tayo portion of soil, and then, lagyan natin ng tubig, tapos filter out natin yung solids. Yung tubig ng galing sa soil, may bakteriyang kasama yon. Puwede po siya na gamitin do'n sa biofilter. So, naturally po, the bacteria is produced as long as there is a fish in a system. So, hindi po kailangang bumili. Mayroong mga commercial na bumibili agad-agad kasi gusto nila ma-colonize kaagad yung biofilter. Kasi hindi po pupuwedeng maglagay tayo ng maraming isda without colonizing the biofilter. Dapat mapuno siya ng bacteria para ma-convert niya kaagad yung waste yung ammonia into nitrite and nitrate. Yes, ma'am.
Yung biofilter itself, commercially available po yun? Or
Yung pong biofilter fina-fabricate din namin. Mayroong nabibili commercially, pero mahal siya. Mostly ng mga nabibiling biofilter ay designed for a larger scale. So ang ginagawa po namin sa mga biofilter ay ito, PVC lang po yung ginagamit namin diyan. Fina-fabricate na rin namin. Tapos nilalagyan namin ng mga biofilter media like yung mga nabibili, K1 plastic, which is very good na with a good surface area. Tapos floating siya. Tapos ini-aerate po natin yan ng aerator. Ah, I don't know kung mayroon akong makitang example dito. Ito po yung pinakamalapit na picture eh. Ito po yon yung mga biofilter ito po yung mga biofilter, yung drawing na to. So, pinupuno namin yan ng mga biofilter media. Tapos ilalagyan namin ng air stone, ni-aerate namin siya para mag-bubble up. Kasi ang nitrifying bacteria ay iba po doon sa denitrifying bacteria. So nitrifying bacteria kailangan niya ng oxygen para mas best siya na mag-perform. So with the aid of oxygen. Yung denitrifying bacteria naman in the absence of oxygen. Yun po yung nangyayari doon sa production ng greenhouse gas emission sa big business ngayon sa Pilipinas dahil sa carbon credit na yan. Yung greenhouse gas ay napoproduce yun dahil submerged yung palay tapos nagkakaroon ng anaerobic decomposition. So kaya napoproduce yung gas. The same po sa aquaponics, aquaculture. Kapag ka po hindi aerated yung biofilter natin, most probably ang nakatira doon is the nitrifying bacteria. So the bacteria converts nitrate all the way to nitrogen gas. Which is, yun po yung usual design ng mga aquaculture lang na walang tanim. Kasi kailangang i-disperse lahat yung nutrient, yung ammonia, nitrate into nitrogen gas para hindi mag-accumulate doon sa tubig.
May questions pa po from the audience. Okay, so we have one question po, sir, from Zoom, from Mark Aquino. Sir, do we have any research or study regarding the cost-benefit analysis of soilless farming technology, such as aquaponic system in the Philippines? If yes, is it economically feasible for long-term household consumption? If no, what government program should we adopt to enhance the technology at the community level?
Thank you po for that question. It opens up another discussion. Well, sa Pilipinas, as far as I know, it's not yet documented how or what is the economic benefit in terms of economic feasibility of this technology. Well, for hydroponics, there is already, and hydroponics, especially using the tower system. But for aquaponics, we are gearing up to that potential of doing a paper on that one already. But initially, we are positive na financially feasible siya. Now, in case na hindi siya financially feasible, we urge, of course, the government to invest in infrastructures to improve or to increase the feasibility of adopting this technology. Kasi nga, food production siya eh. There's no way that we can support or there's no way that we can support sustainable and secure food production system amidst of all this environmental uh, harsh conditions na nararanasan natin sa Pilipinas. Imagine, every year na lang, billions of money is being reported na nasisira. And that only relates to agriculture. Siguro crops nga lang yun eh. O Hindi ko na-feature dito yung 400 billion yung nasira in 2024 alone, as reported by Rappler, no? That is in relation to agriculture. Siguro maiiwasan natin na magkaroon ng mga damages 'yon, ba? Kung nag-invest tayo in infrastructure, we could have lessened those damages. Instead, we use those damages, amount of money, in putting up infrastructure. In that way, as ang investment naman as it accumulates here, mataas naman yung kanyang feasibility for as long as it is. And we have proven that good and sturdy naman. One of our greenhouse have stayed there for like 10 years already without damage. Hindi kami nagpalit ng plastic, wala kaming pinalitan. So which means that permanent structure siya for 10 years. All we have to do is operate. So yun, ganun siya ka-sturdy. That's why we are positive on this technology.
May isa pa pong question from Zoom. Everyday po ba makakapag-absorb ng nutrients ang crops from fish waste? If yes po, hindi po ba magkakaroon ng problem kagaya po ng excessive nutrient uptake? If no po, may mga processes po ba na nag-regulate dito?
Okay, yes. Every day siya nag-absorb. And the plants has the capacity to filter out kung ano lang yung kailangan niya. Okay? Although, especially if it is nutrients, so walang, as far as I know, walang overdose ng absorption. Underdose, pwede pa. That's why yung tanim natin payat, hindi siya green dahil lack of nitrogen, lack of iron, and hindi siya namumunga because lack of potassium and phosphorus, mga ganon. Underdose is as far as I know. But overdose, the plants has its capacity to determine if it is already enough that it absorbed the nutrient. So I don't think that there will be an overdose of absorption.
Siguro po last question na po. Nagkakandak daw po ba kayo ng training para po sa mga gustong mag-set up ng aquaponics or other hydroponics setup?
Yes po. In fact, we are tying up with ATI. We are always been tapped by ATI. Especially kung mayroon silang mga training and seminars about hydroponics, vertical farming, okay kami ng ATI. And in our center, not center, in our laboratory, we call it College of Engineering Land and Water Laboratory, we always conduct training doon naman. Even walk-in, as long as we are informed ahead para ma-schedule our availability, ay lagi kaming open. Because sabi ko nga, there's no way that we can extend or we can make this technology known na useful pala siya and pwedeng maging sagot sa ating mga problema in terms of sustainability if not of our promotion or providing trainings sa mga gustong mag-adapt nito. In fact, even sabi ko nga Sabado pag may mga dumadating doon. Yes, last Sunday, in the afternoon, my wife is in the church having their fellowship. Tapos biglang may dumating niya na tawag dito, nagbaka sakali lang sir na may tao dito. So imagine yung mga opportunities na ganon. And they are in private, willing to adapt to technology. So yun po, all the more na we are open, especially kung gusto nyo pong mag-put up ng sarili ninyo. Kasi importante po na yung mga household, that's why we are developing it all technology. As we thought na malaking tulong yon kung ang every household have their own food production technology na maliliit, helping somehow yung ating complementing the farmers as well.
So, open po siya kahit kanino po, parang private individuals, pwede po. Lang po Sabado, Linggo. Preferably, Mondays to Fridays po. Okay, so if there are no more questions, We will now award the Certificate of Appreciation to Dr. Pascual. So the Natural Sciences Research Institute, University of the Philippines, Diliman, Quezon City, presents the Certificate of Appreciation to Dr. Christopher S. Pascual for imparting his valuable insights and delivering the lecture entitled Harnessing Soilless Farming Technologies for Climate Resilient and Resource Efficient Food Systems during the NSRI lecture series held at Miranda Hall, NSRI, UP Diliman, given on the 30th of September 2025, signed by Dr. Maria Auxila Tiseringan, the Deputy Director for Research and Extension Services, NSRI. We ask Ma'am Oxy and Doc Pai to award this certificate to Dr. Pascual. Dalawa na lang po kayo. Thank you po, Sir Chris. I think that's the end po. Please don't forget to evaluate this session. Ayan, ipa-flash po namin yung QR code for the evaluation form. So, kailangan po niyong mag-evaluate to get the certificate of participation. Thank you. And once again, thank you very much to our on-site and online audience. Um, MRSL, picture din po tayo with Sir. Picture po tayo.